In this section, I will address the basics of how trauma can affect behavior and memory so that first responding officers can better understand what they are hearing and observing when contacting a person reporting a sexual assault. The FBI has stated, treating victims with respect and providing them with assistance benefits victims and helps us build better cases. Sexual assault crimes can be challenging for all law enforcement officers, including first responders. It is critical that all officers understand the basics of how trauma affects behavior and memory so that their response is appropriate, helps the investigation, and does not cause additional trauma for victims making a report. Without an understanding of the basics of how trauma can affect behavior and memory, an officer may incorrectly assume that a victim's behavior is bizarre and their reports are not true. Critical evidence can be lost early in the case if an investigation is wrongly terminated too early. The response of first responders to the report of a sexual assault is critically important because the initial officers' actions and attitudes can have a domino effect on other officers, detectives, prosecutors, and other professionals working the case later. So here are a few basics of how trauma affects people's behavior and memory. It is important for officers to know that in moments of panic or fear, the human body responds in specific ways. Due to the trauma, sexual assault victims are often unable to effectively physically resist an assault, move, or cry out. Victims may be acting at the time they meet with the officer with a wide range of emotions the officer may not expect. Fear, silence, anger, laughter, disorientation, and crying are all emotions the officer may see occurring during an encounter with a victim. This is a normal part of the emotional roller coaster victims experience because of the trauma. Many sexual assault victims experience and report an involuntary freeze or immobility response at the time of the sexual assault. Since immobility may not be understood by responding officers, victims may be treated with skepticism and distrust. Because of lack of understanding, officers' skepticism can result in questions such as, well, why didn't you scream for help? Or, what do you mean you couldn't move your arms? Which may feel accusatory in nature to a victim. Increasing your understanding of the impact of trauma can enhance your understanding of behavior caused by trauma. A lack of understanding can negatively affect how cases are handled from the first responding officers to the very end of the case. Therefore, it is critically important for the officer to maintain a calm and neutral demeanor and to ask questions in a non-biased way. Officers also need to be aware that the brain's response to trauma can result in poor memory encoding and altered or decreased feelings of consciousness. And victims may not be able to give every detail of what happened to them. Victims are often unable to recall all the specific details of the assault, since the brain will fixate on certain aspects of the experience and may ignore extraneous information. Also, when asked questions about the assault, victims are usually unable to describe the assault in a chronological order. This poor memory encoding can result in incorrect conclusions on the part of the officers, that the victim is making things up, or they just can't get their story straight. These conclusions damage victims' overall credibility and may result in an unwarranted disbelief of reports of sexual assault.